What is going on, guys? Welcome back to another video. The third episode of the Halo TV series just released, and with that, I want to get into a topic about the overall series itself. If you didn't know already, a Halo TV show began to release as a Paramount Plus exclusive. The reviews so far have been mixed. It's safe to say that most people think it's at least good, but there are still a lot that say it's not a great show. And most of the people that say it's bad are unfortunately the Halo fans themselves. To name a few reasons, it could be because how it portrays Master Chief and the Halo universe as a whole, how the story is non-canon, meaning it's not tied to the games, and because of a lot of false assumptions going around, like how a title of an article said that directors didn't bother looking at the games even though they did, and the title of the article is actually clickbait, or how certain characters would be the star of the show instead of Master Chief, which is also false at the moment. Again, no spoilers. If you asked me personally, as a longtime Halo fan that has played every single Halo game, has been playing since the Halo 3 days, and as someone who has looked into the extended universe of the books, comics, web series, and audio logs, so far, I think it's good. It's not the revolutionary show we all wanted, but it's good enough to keep me entertained and interested in the show, and I'm definitely going to stick around for the long run, but I also understand why so many other Halo fans don't like this show. Unfortunately, there's a reason for this, and this is where the video gets a bit controversial, so just keep an open mind when you hear this. I think the Halo TV show is going according to plan. Despite all the negative feedback it's receiving, whether or not it's legitimate feedback or if you're just disliking it because you're apparently not a true Halo fan if you don't dislike the show, it's doing its job and everything is going according to plan. What do I mean by this, you may ask? To answer that question, we have to look at the current state of Halo. And if you're a Halo fan like me, you already know where I'm going with this. After Halo 3's release, it's been nothing but controversial release after controversial release. Halo 3 ODST was questioned for being a $60 game despite it not having a multiplayer. Reach divided the casual and competitive scene of Halo. After 343 took over, Halo 4 completely bombed the player base with its Call of Duty-like approach to the franchise. Halo 5 released the worst campaign of all time along with yet another controversial multiplayer, and Halo Infinite, despite having a good campaign and multiplayer, has released in a clearly incomplete state with multiple engine issues, server issues, and a lack of content despite it being a live service title. During all that time, the Halo community has been shrinking, and now there aren't many diehard Halo fans willing to stick it out for the long run anymore. Don't get me wrong, there are still hundreds of millions of gamers out there that still see Halo as one of the most iconic and revolutionary franchises of all time, but I'd say only a fraction are actually sticking around with the franchise, as evidenced by the game's population on Steam and Xbox dwindling, Halo content creators hopping off the sinking ship to other games. Right now, it's not looking good for the Halo community, and announcing a Halo TV show right in the middle of Halo's lowest point could not have been worse, which is where the decisions for the TV show came in. If you've been on Twitter for the past month, you may have seen angry rants against the Halo TV show on how it's not canon or how this isn't made for the fans. And as I said before, most of these decisions when it comes to the story's direction and their target audience are all intentional. From a business perspective, when you plan on making a TV show, you want it to last for as long as it possibly can, meaning you try to plan for the foreseeable future, whether it's casting, arcs, character development, who lives and dies, all of this is planned ahead. The show also has to be able to pull in or at least maintain viewers as the series progresses, or you're going to have a Walking Dead scenario where everyone leaves midway and never comes back. Why I'm explaining this is because it eliminates what Halo fans want most out of this show, a canon story that extends the game's universe. Don't get me wrong, I would love to see a blockbuster film or a really good TV show that extends the Halo universe, but one problem that Halo has with its story is that it's already way too vast and complex with the games, books, comics, web series, and podcasts, making it near impossible to make an ongoing series with creative freedom, which is very important to making a story, without screwing with the timeline. And knowing the Halo community, if you mess with one tiny detail, even if it's the color of someone's hair or simply their voice, they're gonna go apeshit and beg 343 to make this non-canon anyways. And if you think I'm overreacting, this is the same community that got upset at a cookbook author for not producing Halo Infinite content. I am not kidding, this shit actually happened. You might say all they need to do was make an ODST series. I don't think that was going to work since you need the Master Chief in some way, shape, or form for marketing reasons for at least a few seasons since he's basically the face of Halo at this point, and you need to introduce the universe before you introduce a bunch of side characters with no context whatsoever. It's like making The Witcher without Geralt. It just doesn't really make a lot of sense. At least without a proper introduction. Now that we have a TV show, an ODST series is more likely to happen since we've introduced this universe to the viewers, but without it, I don't think it would have worked as a first impression. You might also suggest taking the original trilogy and converting it to a film format. That definitely wasn't going to work since these stories, especially the cutscenes alone, wouldn't make a great film since the stories heavily rely on gameplay and the gamer's experience with them. Take the cutscenes alone and you have a weirdly cut film hopping back and forth from the very beginning of a climax to the very end of it. Add the gameplay and you're basically watching an uncut vlog or a wave simulation that goes on for 20 minutes straight. That doesn't sound like a lot of fun, and at that point I'd rather just watch other people on YouTube play the levels out. How about the books? Why don't they just convert those into a film format? For starters, that's what the screenwriters looked at and it's what's mostly inspiring this show. But I know you guys are talking about the story as well. That would work if this were a mini-series. Very few of these books are direct sequels to one another. Each story only lasts for 1 to 2 books, meaning the show will only have 1 to 2 seasons, and a lot of them require previous knowledge of the games, which is something we don't want to be a requirement for new viewers. So what's the point then of making this show if it's not going to be on par with the main timeline? It's simple, to attract non-gamers to Halo. Not necessarily the games, but the Halo brand itself. There's an untapped market for people that have heard of Halo and know how popular it is, but they can't or don't want to get into games. Believe it or not, there are still plenty of people in the world that refuse to even give gaming a try, whether it's from stereotyping, not being able to afford it, or simply just not being interested in it. My parents are the perfect example. They hate video games with a passion.
Isn't it?
The day they touch a controller and play through one Halo game is the day I win a CSGO major. But they know how much I love Halo, they even ask about the story every now and then, and they like to watch TV shows. So for people like my parents, this show is perfect since they don't have to do so much research on the games, books, and other external sources to understand the show and could just sit back, drink some wine, and grow with this new universe instead of forcing them into a pre-existing universe that requires knowledge from an activity they're not very fond of. Obviously, the fans matter, and the article, if you actually read it, does explain that. The Halo community is just so shattered and divided to the point where it would be impossible to produce something or anything without upsetting at least half the community. So you might as well have it cater more towards the tens of millions of potential new Halo fans instead of catering it to only what remains of this dying community. And so far, it seems to be working. Every reaction video that involves viewers that don't know much about Halo are loving this, and I'm happy for them. It's just unfortunate that the Halo fans that waited over a decade for this to release isn't getting what they want. In summary, Halo fans don't matter as much as we want them to, and unfortunately, this kind of business is a numbers game. It's best to look at this show as an alternate reality of Halo made for non-gamers instead of comparing it to the original trilogy, torturing yourself in the process. Hell, this is a non-canon story. You don't have to look at this at all if you really don't want to, since it doesn't affect the games. But in my opinion, it's not as bad as some people are making it out to be. The first episode is free on YouTube, so if you want to give it a shot, the only thing you need to spend is your time. If you don't like it after that episode, at least you tried. That's all I could really ask for everyone, is just to give it a shot if you're either a Halo fan or someone looking in that is interested in Halo, and to hold on judging the entire series until season 1 is complete. That is going to be it for today's video. What are your guys' thoughts on the Halo TV show so far? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. I hope you enjoyed the video. Leave a like, subscribe for more content, and I'll talk to you all later.